Welcome to If I Only Had 10 Minutes, and Eleanor Hawkins. Thank you so much for being here with us. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, most people know who you are, but can you tell them a little bit more about you in case they don't know your background?
Sure. So I'm a reporter at Axios. I cover communication. So the way that I like to think about it is it's the topic and trends that impact how leaders, brands, employers communicate. And I think really what differentiates my coverage is that I'm really focused on how comms impacts the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm oftentimes looking at, stripped from the headlines, real life case studies, how comms is driving business forward or getting businesses in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I come from the world of communication, so I kind of did everything in reverse. Most people start in a newsroom and then maybe jump into PR and comms. I did the opposite, started on Capitol Hill, working in the US Senate, worked for a defense policy organization, worked in the media, leading comms, and now I cover comms. So I think it's a unique position to be in, and it allows me to report from a place of authority. And we've been here now at Axios for about 3 years, running Axios Communicators, which is the newsletter, Axios Communicators Pro, which is our membership offering, and then of course our live events franchise as well.
It's only been 3 years.
It's only been 3 years.
Just asking a couple of questions that I want to hear your thoughts on. What is your view on using generative AI for content creation, and where is there a red line if there is one?
Well, I think this question is different if you're asking me personally in a newsroom or if you're asking somebody who's in a comms role.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me personally, what we produce, the content we produce, that is our product, that is our differentiator, that is everything. And then maintaining that trust between reader and writer and reader and reporter is key. So we don't use AI to write our stories. We use it to maybe help with analyzing data or transcribing, maybe for brainstorming. But I do think if I put on my old comms hat, there are a lot of use cases for AI, specifically when it comes to content creation. Honestly, I think that's kind of like low-hanging fruit. I think
Right.
everybody should be playing around with it.
Right.
Um, do there need to be disclosures? Maybe. And I think one thing that's really fascinating and that needs to change soon is that most companies don't have a clear policy
Right. Right.
on how to use AI. And if they do have the policy, it is not well understood across the organization.
I'm mixed about disclosure, right? I mean, is it because it helped me write an article and then I put my twist on it? Where is that line that you disclosed created with AI?
And that's the question everybody is trying to figure out. I mean, we disclose when we send an email from our iPhone.
Right, right, right.
Will you disclose if you use AI? I don't know, maybe eventually. I think what this will do, though, is it will level up the really great storytellers, for lack of a better word, because they'll be able to drill down, okay, here's what's fluff, because AI does spit out a lot of fluff. But again, I think it's going to depend on how the models are trained and what information you put in it. I'll tell you a real example of how I've used AI, and it generated content for me. I didn't use it, but it helped me kind of connect the dots in a way. I was in between, I think I had like 14 interviews, and I was in between, maybe I was halfway through maybe.
Right.
And I had a quick break to like go home, change, regroup. And in that time, I fed all of the transcripts from those interviews into AI and said, can you pull some common themes? Like, what are they all talking about? How can I bring this all together in maybe a one big thing or a trend story? And it did it, and it was helpful. Did I use exactly the story
Right.
that it wrote for me? No, but it allowed for me to like take a step back and think about things in a more strategic way.
Right.
And I think that really will be the superpower, is it will help communicators keep tabs on what's being said, because so much is being said all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And then it will help them kind of serve as key dot connectors, if you will.
You covered CommsCollectiv when we first came out, and you were very seemed to really understand the idea of fractional. Not everybody does. It's still relatively new in our space. It's not new in many others. What do you think people misunderstand about hiring fractional communications people?
There might, I mean, honestly, there might be this belief that why do I need a fractional if I have agency support? Isn't that kind of what they're doing? I think that might be a misconception. Some might look to their agency support if they have that as a fractional,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it's not.
Right.
It's not. I think having a fractional CCO or fractional head of corporate affairs who is really embedded in the company and dedicated to it and can help build the team, establish the strategy. It's more than just an account, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I think about it. Full disclosure, I've never served in a fractional role, but that is how I would think about it if I was looking to hire someone.
Right. No, it's interesting because it is also an adjunct, right? So it's like, what expertise does my team not have?
Right.
And where can I get it? And what's great is if you find a really seasoned person, they can just jump in because they get it, right? They understand how companies work. When has you just had to talk about 14 interviews and whatever. When has silence been your most powerful tool?
I mean, I love that you're framing that silence as a tool, because I do think that it is. There was a long time where communication professionals, a phrase that I often heard was like, silence is a demerit. And no, I think silence is a strategic choice. I am silent a lot when I get pitches in my inbox that have nothing to do with my beat or the things that I cover. I
Right.
let my silence speak for itself. You can follow up with me 1,000 times. I'm not responding to this. But I think if I were to put on my old communication hat, like, silence is a tool. It is a choice. I'm finding that if you're going to stay silent, though, you need to commit. You need to commit to it. I've seen some companies, maybe they make a choice, whether it's a branding choice or a business decision, and they get pushback. I think American Eagle is maybe a good example of this, right? The Sydney Sweeney campaign. Yep. They committed to that campaign. They were never going to walk back that campaign. So I think it was a mistake for them to issue a statement. I think they should have just stayed silent and committed to it. Because if you are going to comment on something without changing the action, you need to explain why. And
Right.
so if you're not going to just commit to silence, then you should communicate quickly and communicate before it spins out of control. But I do think we need to acknowledge that the Streisand effect is real. I also think we have to acknowledge that the news cycle moves so quickly.
So fast.
So if you're not going to say anything in your statement, just stay silent. That is my point of view when it comes to communicating right now on this day in 2025.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's interesting, over the last year and a half, or maybe it's two, who even knows anymore. We've watched so many companies sort of take a position, get pushback, and walk it back. And look, I'm not sitting in the room. There are always business decisions. There's lots of voices. But it feels from the outside, and as a communications person, like if you had just committed to whatever you were doing and stayed, to your point, stayed the course, it would be less of a story than you're sort of making it more of a story. You're bringing it more into the forefront of people's minds by changing.
Yeah, and I guess just to like simplify it in my smart brevity style, it would be if your statement doesn't say anything, then stay silent.
What is your favorite bad idea that actually worked?
My favorite bad idea, again, kind of putting on my old communicator hat, when I worked in the U.S. Senate, I was part of the team that helped encourage our senator to launch a Snapchat profile.
Oh.
And this was way back in the day. This was before Snapchat even had public profiles. So the only way you could connect with people is like if they were in your contacts list.
Right.
And at the time, we got some pushback because people were like, only teenagers are on this app. This is kind of weird. Why are you trying to reach them? And we were like, well, teenagers, some of them can vote, by the way. If not, they'll be able to vote soon. And oh, by the way, they do want to be engaged in these conversations, and they do care about this, and we want to meet them where they are. Right. And so we actually were part of the team that like got on the phone with Snapchat in the early days and said, how can we make these public facing?
Oh, that's
how can we make this for public figures? And I often say, like, I had a U.S. senator on Snapchat before Kylie Jenner was there. And so I think helping build that, it was it could have been a really bad idea,
Right.
but it worked to our favor, and it helped establish this politician as somebody who was in touch with a younger generation, which was helpful.
If you had an extra, you're a parent, I assume your kids are young. If you had an extra 10 minutes in your day, what would you do with it?
I mean, you set it up nicely. Like, it would obviously be spent with my son. I wish we had just like, we still have a lot of daylight, but there's always, that time in the winter when you're like, oh, I wish we could be outside, whether it's riding bikes. My son is really into swinging right now. We're teaching him how to pump his legs. So like,
Yes.
if I just had a little bit more time to do that every single day before we had to start the dinner, bath, bed routine, that moment between school and that end of day routine is really what I wish I had more time for.
How old is your son?
He's 5.
Oh, it's a great age. It's a great age because they're
Very
fun, and it's a great age. Mine are no longer 5. They're still fun in their way, but they're old. So cherish it.
Yeah.
Eleanor, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I hope you don't have 14 interviews today. That just sounded so overwhelming. I wanted to cry for you.
No, not
and they're
today.
all good, and they're all interesting, and I'm sure it's but it's just this. I mean, I could see your calendar. It's just very overwhelming to even think about it. So
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I will say it's a positive of smart brevity. Like, most of these interviews are only about 15 or 20 minutes, which is doable.
That's all you need. All right. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.